Hey everyone, welcome back to All Things Home Loans, Credit, and Real Estate. I am your host, Deb, the Mortgage Queen. So let's start learning. Hey, it's the Mortgage Queen, and we have this really cool little tagline that we came up with that's where we turn confusion into clarity, sarcasm into strategy, and paperwork into keys. How cool is that? I'm not sure we're going to stick with it, but sounds good for a minute. Today we're going to talk about VA loans. And VA loans are very near and dear to my heart. I come from a pretty small line of military people, but my grandpa served in World War II. My dad served in Vietnam, had some in-laws. My husband's grandpa on his mom's side was in the Navy and served in, I want to say, the Korean War, but I could be wrong because I don't really know him very well. His grandpa Criddle served in World War II. And I have a lot of pride. I have a lot of pride when it comes to veterans, but I actually have my husband's grandpa's uniform from when he served in World War II. And he gave it to me before he passed away. And it's in this really cool, like I built something cool for it. Anyways, that's a side note, total tangent, but VA loans are awesome. They're my most favorite loan when it comes to the benefit that the borrower has and also knowing why we have it. Our veterans serve our country, and our veterans do a lot of sacrificing that nobody knows unless you're a veteran. And or a veteran's wife or a veteran's family. They obviously, you're aware of that. But this is the one thing that I can say that our government has probably done right, to say thank you to our veterans. I'm not saying that the government hasn't done other things. I'm just saying this is one they have definitely done right. And I want to go through just a few things with this. My favorite meme, which I'm gonna pop it in here, is the picture that floats around of I want to say it's a casket with a flag and maybe a serviceman standing behind it. I can't remember exactly what it is, but the caption on it is, "I've already paid my down payment." And that's right. Serving in the military and being a veteran, you've already served and deserve some major benefits for homeownership and your family to be able to take advantage of that too. So let's tackle just a few things. If you've served in the military, in National Guard, you have a certain amount of years you have to serve. If you've been deployed, it's like you've been deployed, you automatically are eligible to do it. There are some point requirements, time requirements for you to qualify for the VA loan. And we can help with that, with getting your certificate of eligibility and figuring that out. And if you're still currently serving, sometimes your certificate of eligibility doesn't come automated. We'll have to actually reach out to your commanding officer and get some information from them. But super easy. Like, it's just something that's super easy for us to be able to track down. But high level points of this: no down payment requirement, no monthly mortgage insurance, and it's usually, actually, I can say probably 99.9% of the time, the interest rate is the lowest in the market available. There really isn't usually a rate that's lower than a VA loan. Key to it, though, is you have to qualify, because you have to be a veteran and you have to have served your required time to be able to qualify on that. So who qualifies is the veteran based off of the time. Now, it's sad how many misunderstandings sit out there. Sometimes veterans are told they can't use their benefits anymore because they've already used it before. Now, I'm going to walk you through that path. I'm going to use my dad. We'll just use my dad because he's a veteran. He's used his VA benefits to purchase his home. He sold that home. There is a reinstatement of those benefits, gives him the ability to go buy a new home with 100% financing. Now, here's where the little asterisk comes into that. If I use my VA loan to buy my home, and then I have a really good rate on it, I've got a really good equity position, I'd rather turn it into a rental, you have the ability to turn that loan into a rental, or that home into a rental. But in order to use your next VA, you can do the VA again, but you don't get full benefits. You can't use your full benefits if you don't sell that house. So that is kind of a little bit of a misunderstanding. People think they can't use it again, but they can. There's just certain little asterisks next to it. Um, Along with that, the entitlement that you receive back, sometimes there's a little bit of a lag on that, but it's not anything to worry about. It's something that we work with our behind the scenes and take care of that after closing. Um, and then on the reusing it, there's a fee behind your VA, your funding fee that goes into that. I'm going to dive into that just a little bit more. So there's an extra fee if you have used it first time use. Um, and then there's also the disability piece of that. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. So high level things: zero monthly payment, or excuse me, zero down payment, no monthly mortgage insurance. Interest rates are just better. Conventional FHA and USDA loans all require some sort of a monthly um, mortgage insurance. FHA, USDA, and VA rates usually hover pretty close to the same place with each other, but there's no monthly mortgage insurance on VA. That's where the benefit comes in. So the rate might be the same as FHA, but there's no monthly mortgage insurance. Um, the credit requirements behind VA loans are just a lot more lax. It's not that you can just be lazy and not pay your bills. It's more of the underwriter is tasked with being more compassionate towards things that have happened. Letters of explanation for late payments and those things pretty much fix our problem. Obviously, if we have 2 or 3 pages of collections and payments not being made on time, and just you have completely no care in the world about what your credit looks like, that is going to be a concern to the underwriter. But for the most part, if you just kind of had something bad happen, maybe you were deployed, maybe your family had a divorce situation or a death, and you have this window of time that it just looks terrible on credit, we can explain our way out of that. And so VA is a lot more lenient when it comes to credit requirements. Another cool thing is these loans are assumable, and you don't have to be a veteran to assume the loan. So it's definitely a little bit of a process for the loan to be assumed, but that's also a benefit, is somebody could take over that financing if you decide you want to move. Now remember, if you do that, there's definitely some stuff that we have to deal with on the entitlement side of things. So we got to work through that piece of it too. But think about that for your family members. If you have a home that you have your VA loan on, you want your family members to assume your home. That's kind of a win-win there. Um, the biggest this is going to cause some hate and discontent, but one of the biggest things that is inaccurate, it straight up is inaccurate, that sellers have to pay all the veterans fees. It's not the case. Sellers don't have to pay the veterans fees. That is not the terminology. It is veterans cannot pay certain fees. And so what happens in the lending world, which I'm sorry, this is just going to be the truth, is from a lender standpoint, we're like, hey, get the seller to pay all of the closing fees for these veterans because they have to. And then I don't have to get rid of my underwriting fee. I don't have to get rid of my processing fee. I don't have to get rid of some of the title fees. Instead of me as a lender having to pay those, I just show that the seller's paying them, the veteran's not paying them, and all of a sudden I don't have to cover all of those junk fees in my loan. Um, that is the piece that frustrates me about lenders. The veterans can't pay those fees, but it is not the seller's responsibility to pay them. We want them to. And if you're the seller out there, we want to adjust those purchase contracts so that we have the ability to have those fees paid for, because there are third-party fees that are required. I still have to pay an underwriter. I still have to pay my processing. I still have to have the ability to keep my lights on. That is the reality behind it. So if we can work it into the contract that the seller covers all of those fees, we want to. But please keep in mind, it is not the seller having to. It is that we want them to because the veteran can't. That's the fun part of this. And I explained that to a realtor a couple of months ago, and it was funny because she went off on this whole tangent about how this contract needs to be adjusted and yada, yada, yada. And I said, hold on just a second. I want to tell you something. And I explained that to her. The phone just went silent for like 2 seconds. She goes, I've never been told that before. I've been in real estate for 25 years and I have never been told that before. I said, well, go to ChatGPT, look it up. You'll find out that it's true. And I I just thought it was kind of cool. Like, being a lender, be honest. Like, I straight up would tell the realtor, I want those in there because I don't want to pay for those junk fees. I want somebody to pay for them besides me losing them. I still have to pay these people. I just don't. Yeah. Anyways, there's my little soapbox. Sorry, not sorry. That's really what it is. Sorry, not sorry. But um appraisals, that's the next thing. Let's think about the VA appraisal. The appraiser goes out there and he says, hey, same like FHA. Hey, when the rain comes off the roof, it's not moving away from the house. It's going to damage the foundation. Why is that a problem to be dealt with? It's not. Hey, there's handrail needs because there's 4 steps, and if somebody bails off the top of that thing, they're going to really get hurt. We need to have a handrail. Safety thing. VA appraisers are tasked with making sure that that home is safe and sound for the veteran. And when it comes down to it, if you have a problem with an appraiser calling out safety and health issues in a home, shame on you as a realtor. And if you are not helping your client get those things fixed, or you as a seller's agent aren't helping your clients see that those things need to be fixed because it's a health and safety thing, shame on you. But I mean, I understand there are those situations where sellers don't have the money, and that's okay. That's all right. But it's different when there is enough equity in that home that they can spend $1,000 and fix some of those things. So don't get hung up on the VA appraisers. Now, with the value, they also are really scrutinizing to make sure that that veteran is not being taken care of. So have VA appraisals come in lower? Yeah, I've seen them come in below purchase price, and they call Tidewater. And basically what happens is the VA appraiser comes out and says, okay, I've inspected the property. I'm not hitting value. Hey, realtors, put your heads together and get me some comparables that are going to help me hit the value. And both parties have the rights to be able to go back to the drawing board, go to the MLS and see if there are any comparables that justify the price that they're selling at. And if they can't, the price just comes in lower. So playing devil's advocate just a little bit, it's like, okay, if you don't have the comparables to prove the value based off of what you sold the home for, why would the appraiser be able to come in at purchase price? Just because the borrower was willing to pay it doesn't necessarily mean that's the value. So there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with VA appraisers too. But I will tell you, this is a fun fact. I had the absolute worst VA appraiser years and years and years ago, and I was so mad. Oh, I was so mad. The realtor was mad. I was mad. And I mean, it was just everybody was mad, and we were all mad at the appraiser. He he just needed to go away. He just needed to get off the appraisal board. So I called the Veterans Administration. I said, we got to get this guy out of here. He's crossed my desk a couple of times, and he has got to go. He is causing so many problems in our market. And they basically told me, and I don't know if this is the rule, but this is what they told me: VA appraisers don't get off the appraisal board unless they die. What? Okay, that's cool. So they could do a really shoddy job and really not be good for our veterans, and they're staying on the board. Anyways, he was old enough back then. He really did need to retire, and he's probably dead by now because that was long enough ago. So I guess there is some truth to that. But um, be patient with the appraisers, because we know they're trying to help with the health and safety issues, and then they're also making sure that the value is really there and that the uh, veterans not getting taken advantage of in any aspect of it. We're also doing 100% financing. So if we get a veteran into a home at 100% financing and that value can't be supported, yet we force that to go higher, they're already upside down in the home. What kind of what kind of, that's not good. That's what I'm going to say. What kind of service are we giving these veterans? That's just not good. Um, it's, as a listing agent, if you list on there on your FHA, conventional, USDA eligible, but nothing's on there with VA, you're missing out. There are VA renovation options available. There are if you really look at the leniency of the credit, VA credit side of it for your borrower to qualify is probably the most lenient. And I would be all over accepting a VA, all over. And don't get hung up on the 100% financing, because maybe the veteran has the ability to put $80,000 down, but why? Why would they do that? Um, so let's talk about the funding fee. The funding fee is the fee that is paid by the veteran, and there's different sections of it. I'll explain that. It's paid by the veteran by being financed into the loan. And I'll use an easy number. We know this isn't even real because this isn't the market that we're in at all. But let's just say we have a purchase price of $100,000. This is easy math for this poor girl who didn't write these notes down. So easy math of $100,000, and it's a veteran's first use. They're utilizing 100% financing, so they're not putting a down payment at all, and it's their first use. It's going to be a fee of 2.15% to that veteran. So I'm going to do a loan for 100,000 to give the seller, but I'm actually going to do a loan for 102,000 to pay that funding fee in my loan amount. Subsequent use is 3.3%, and then it does reduce down if you have a greater than 10% down payment. It's 1.5. Now that is required on all VA loans unless you are receiving at least a 10% disability from VA. I would dare say most people who have been deployed have the ability to get some sort of a VA disability, and I would tell you to check into that. If you've been deployed, there is going to be some mental things. There are going to be probably some physical ailments. And if you can get your benefits to show at least 10% disabled, that waives that funding fee. So that just makes VA that much better if you can waive your funding fee. The nice thing about the funding fee is it gives some funding to the VA, the Veterans Administration, to help with losses. There are going to always be foreclosures. It doesn't matter what loan you're in. Perhaps the veteran was on the loan by themselves and they pass away and they don't have family. That's going to be a foreclosure. So it could be that it's just not the lack of making payments. It's just somebody just didn't outlive their loan and didn't have a family to take care of it. Maybe the estate couldn't pay off the home. The thing that we have to also remember is the VA funding fee can be quite expensive, and it can add to the mortgage payment because it is financing in above and beyond that purchase price. But when you compare that to a higher conventional rate in mortgage insurance or the same rate on FHA with mortgage insurance, it's still going to be cheaper to go VA. The only time that you kind of get into maybe it's going to be cheaper if we go conventional, is if the veteran has a 20% down payment. So they get out of the mortgage insurance and they have a funding fee. We actually have had quite a few scenarios that the borrowers had a sell of a home. They have a big chunk of a down payment just because they wanted to take this chunk from the sell of their home, put it into the new home. And so they have 20 or 30% down, and they're not exempt from the funding fee. Well, it could be that the rate is not that much better on a VA loan to offset that funding fee requirement. So we definitely have to run the numbers and make sure that we've got you lined up correctly. Even if VA loan is top dog and we want to make sure that everybody gets into the veterans loan, we still have to make sure that we calculate the funding fee situation there. It's, I guess, for the sake of argument here, the top things to remember is 100% financing, no mortgage insurance, better interest rates for the most part. I would 99.9% of the time. Appraisals are done to protect the veteran to not have any health and safety issues, to protect them that they're not going to be upside down on their home at the time of purchase. It's a big way to say thank you. Thank you, veterans, for what you did. And we've got your back. America, we've got your back. Like, thanks for what you've done. I'm sure there's probably some people listening to this thinking, oh my gosh, America hasn't done anything for the veterans. Yeah, you're probably right in certain aspects, but when it comes to the VA funding or the VA financing, absolutely. Remember that it's not for just first-time homebuyers. It's actually can be repeated, so that's a big misunderstanding. And just for fun, just to throw the dagger back in, veterans can't pay some of those fees, but sellers are not required. We just want them to. That's the biggest thing. Makes me giggle because I don't mind telling people what the truth is and deal with it. That's what it is. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the big thing to remember. Oh, certificate of eligibility. Let's talk about that. So if we don't have so we have a website we go to. Once we get the application, we go to this website. It's a VA website. Type in the information, and we get this form that basically says, yes, here's your veteran information, where which division that they served in, if they're exempt from the funding fee, if they've ever used their VA loan before, and if they're receiving disability benefits. It's right on that form. Sometimes they don't come back automated. A couple cases that we've had that have not come back automated is because they had just recently got discharged, so they didn't have their DD-214 or their NGB-22 loaded into the system yet. Pretty simple. All we have to do is just put it into a manual review, and it usually pops out pretty quickly. The next thing is if they're in the National Guard, still considered National Guard, and have not been discharged at all. They've hit their 6-year mark, never been deployed. That comes down to getting a letter from the commander. We've got to figure out, we got to get the information that we need so that we've got the term of service in there, and that's more of a manual thing. And really not hard. It really isn't hard. It's just a couple little extra documents if we don't get those automated, but those certificate of eligibilities are instantly, so we can get those pretty quickly. It's not slower. It's not slower. As a lending institution, we have the program down pat. Like, we know what we've got to do. Do we have to have a water test? Do we have to have an engineer if it's a manufactured home? There's all kinds of just little things. You just have to have special disclosures that have to go out. We'll get them. We can close those loans as fast as every other loan. The appraisers usually take a little bit longer, and there's not really a rush process with the appraisers, so that kind of takes up a little bit of extra time. But in the event that we were in a huge hurry, we know who the appraiser is. That is notified. We're notified of that on the lending side, and the real estate agent on the buyer side can call and say, "Hey, we're kind of in a pinch. If there's any way you can go faster." They still have the right to take their time to get it done, but we can always make those phone calls and ask if they can do it faster. And then the I don't know that it's fair to say all real estate agents shy people away from the VA loans, but I've done mortgage loans for 30 years, and I can count on one hand, 5 fingers, maybe even less than my 5 fingers, the amount of times that I've had conversations with real estate agents that were excited about a VA loan. And shame on that. I hope that there can be a change, a shift in the mindset, because we, as citizens of the United States, owe our veterans more than we can even imagine. And just as a quick story, my grandpa Cooper, he saw some horrendous things in the war of World War II, and we never heard anything from him. It was, he served and he was home and he did his time, and that was it. There was not many conversations. And when he was alive, we were always hounding him, all of his grandkids, will you let us interview you, for our government classes or our history classes? And he just, there's a few things that we have on record, but not really. And when you have people around you that have served in the military, there's a somberness to them. We owe them this. It is that we owe them this. We owe them being willing to do the extra paperwork. We owe them dealing with the appraiser and how they handle things. We owe them that. Another perk really quick, manufactured homes. Manufactured homes on a permanent foundation that have been moved twice are allowed to be done on 100% financing with VA. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering if you could take anything special out of this, you absolutely can. If you are a real estate agent who has a home considered real property, been twice moved, start marketing it to veterans. It's 100% financing for them. I think that's pretty cool. In fact, just kind of as a side note, I think that we should all take note that if an engineer goes out there and says, yep, the house is good, the foundation's good, we shouldn't care if the house has been twice moved. We shouldn't care. So FHA, conventional, USDA need to get their crap together so that we can actually get everybody okay with twice moved homes, as long as we have a couple inspections to make sure everything's good. I've actually done financing on 8 homes. I know for a fact 8 homes that were moved from their original location to a new foundation. Regular single family residence homes can move, but manufactured homes can't. Well, single family homes weren't built to be moved. Manufactured homes were built to be moved. So anyways, there's a little tangent. I'm gonna have to stop there. We're gonna have a whole 20 more minutes about me and my tangents, but um, end result, 100% financing. VA loans are awesome. Yes, there's funding fees. There's ways to get around it. Please be patient with the appraisers. Please be patient with the things they call out, and let us work together to be able to get those things fixed if there are things that need to be fixed and the sellers don't have room in their numbers. But yeah, with that, I will leave you with we love veterans. We love veterans loans. We love 100% financing. We can do construction loans for VA loans, and buy land, build a house, buy land, put a new manufactured, buy land, put a new modular, buy land, put a single wide. I mean, there's some options out there that are just awesome. So don't discredit what VA loans can be. They are awesome. They're very misunderstood, misused, and definitely underappreciated. And we want to make sure that we take advantage of those at all costs. That is just an amazing program. So I leave that with you. The Mortgage Queen signing out. Let's get you into home. Thank you, veterans. We appreciate everything that you do for us. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. So stay tuned. We are going to learn some more next time.